Because I know it's like that with the film, but it used to surprise me a lot. But again, as I said in the beginning, it makes me very happy too, because I was myself afraid somehow about the dark side of the subject of the film. I was afraid of it, but I never tried to make it, at least not on purpose, I never tried to make it look funnier or easier than it was. And the fact that it happened, that there was a lightness in the film, thanks to Isabelle and thanks to certain situations and dialogues, I consider like a luck, even more because it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah, since you mentioned Isabelle Huppert, and you also mentioned this is the first time that you worked with her on this film. I read a review, one of the reviews of this film, probably you read it also, it was in the New York Times. And the person who wrote the review was in love with Isabelle Huppert. So the review was almost all, it was all about Isabelle Huppert. And the reviewer says, is she a great actress or the world's greatest actress? And that's obvious it's a second. But what I wondered about was a couple of things about that. Because the reviewer also says her performance is a clear case of actress as auteur. And but you wrote the screenplay. So what do you think of that? Do you think that the actress takes over and authors the film, or is there a collaboration, or how is this working for you?
I think if there is one person who would be really, who would react violently against that kind of remark, it would be Isabelle herself. Because she's the most respectful, il y a une abnégation chez elle. Elle se retire en faveur du personnage, elle n'essaye jamais de réécrire son personnage.
She's always out of this character. She doesn't like to.
What I mean is that she never tries to push herself into it, to influence the writing. She's incredibly respectful. I mean, to her, a character and a script or a director's vision is something sacred. And it's almost, I don't think it ever happened that she wanted to change a line. And if she was angry once or twice during the set, as I remember it, it was in moments where she would forget the line, and that would make her very angry and against herself. And I would go to her and say, it doesn't matter, you can say it different, and she would be like, no, I want to say exactly the way it's in the script, So she wouldn't, I don't think she would.
She would say no.
No, I don't think.
So along those same lines, do you think that she realized, she captured the idea of Nathalie the way you had imagined it, or was it something else that happened when she...
No, I think she totally got it. I think a lot of the pleasure, extreme pleasure I had in working with her had to do with the fact that I didn't have to explain to her what it was about, and the fact that there was both strength and a weakness in the character, her love for life that would overcome her grief, her sadness, and all the things the film is about. I think she perfectly understood, and it's not like I had to make a long... of course we talked once before shooting, and we talked about the character, but it's not like once I had said to her what was important to me, like a certain lightness that I thought, the fact that I didn't think, for instance, that it should be a melodrama because of what it is about, that we should find a lightness in it. There was a few things like that I thought were important for her to know about, but she liked choices that were mine regarding how I wanted to film this story, and that was it. I mean, and then our work on the set was only about very precise, concrete thing, and she's really one of these actresses who believe in the present, in the instant, more than in the intellectualization of her character. And I'm the same, actually. I believe we find the truth of a character through the rhythm and through the lines and the scene itself, the reality of the scene. And so that's made our relationship very easy.
Oh, that's interesting that you say that, because it's one of the big ideas circulated in the movie, because it is a movie with philosophers and with philosophy, and so I have to ask this question, of course, and you know this question is coming, because your mother and father were both philosophers, and they were involved in philosophy, so a big assumption that a person could make about the film is, oh, okay, now this film is about Mia, this is Mia's autobiographic, she's projecting herself into her future, and that's why it's called Future, and so it's an autobiographical film. But the way you're describing it as coming from a different place. So how would you respond to that?
I would never say it's autobiographical, because my mother is not me, and I'm not my mother. So maybe you could say it's biographical, but certainly not autobiographical. And I guess it's also what at first kept me distant to the. I mean, I had some reluctance, hesitation before going into that story, because yes, it was inspired by my mother. Obviously, it was, and you always have a complicated relationship to your. I mean, or maybe not, but most of people do. I think, at least me. And so I wasn't so enthusiastic about the idea of. But what happened is that I felt I had to. I felt it was necessary to speak about that, and I wasn't sure why until I ended writing the script. But I felt I needed to look at the destiny of my mother, the way I saw it, and there was a strength in her that impressed me, and that I admired, and I wanted to find out why and how, and try to understand where she got that strength from. And ultimately I realized that the film gave a lot to me. But I think I learned from the film. It's not like I started with answers to the big questions that are in the film, but while I was making the film, I learned about why I needed to make the film.
Yeah. I think there were moments where I thought, okay, this is a family, and this is people who live very much in the books that they're reading and the relationship that they have to them. So you are talking about a process where you discovered something about yourself through making something, through writing, and also making a film. But there's often also quotation within the film of thinkers. And I wondered what the meaning was for you as you were making the film, because quotation is extremely important. So, for example, okay, I'll just name an example, but I'll let you also pick something too. But at the funeral, Nathalie reads a section from Pascal Pensée, and I wondered what kind of meaning you thought this had for Nathalie, or was it more something that was meaningful for you? Why you choose this passage for her mother's funeral?
In that case, I think it means a lot, that passage, for both my mother and for me. She actually read that on my grandmother's funeral, but she had forgotten about it, and I remembered it because it had impressed me a lot, and I think it's very much, what it says is very much, what she, the kind of doubts that it points about how can we believe or not believe in God, and how can we live with that, is exactly, I think, where my mother is, philosophically speaking, but also in her relationship to life in general. and I think in a way, here is a place where I can really meet her. I feel the same about that, you know, this need of, this void and this need of filling it with a belief of a greater something, but uncertainty about that, this doubt basically, I think is at the very heart of my own relationship to, probably in a different way, but in my own relationship to life, and all of my films are quest for meaning. And I think a lot of the questions that are now mine and that my films deal with are questions that I've inherited from my parents, except they use it, for them it became philosophy. They chose philosophy, and I use them in a very different way, and I've read less books than they have, at least philosophy books for sure, but I think in a way I deal in my everyday life with the same question, and that's one of the things that making the film helped me realize.
So do you think that a film can philosophize?
I think cinema is I think philosophy is very much in the heart of what filmmaking is about. I guess it depends on the filmmaker. Some filmmakers look for very different, filmmakers can look for very different things to film, but I think when you make films that are about life, and I think you deal with philosophical questions, of course. Does life have a meaning? What can we hope for? What is good? What is evil? You know, all these questions. When you describe a human relationship and life, you have to deal with those questions, of course.
I think that amusing the father is a Schopenhauer fan. And he needs to have his world as illusion, Welteswille, Vorstellung, you know, big fat volume. So you sort of assign him that philosophical universe.
Yeah, she's more into Rousseau and the French ones, the nicer philosophy, and she's more into the, you know, harsh, darker.
The darkness. So yeah, the world is just an illusion.
Yes,
yeah.
I have both in me now.
Okay, you're using one. Okay. You know, speaking of the book, and there's also this sort of, I was really struck by the book as a material object. You know, you have a circulation of books. You know, I give you this book, you give me. I take this book away from you. You know, I took the book, and when he leaves his wife, one of the more striking. I'm also a book person. A lot of us are book people. And when he leaves, these bookshelves that have been raided, they've been destroyed as he's taken all these books. That's sort of, for me, the strongest sign of how everything has been wrecked somehow when he takes everything away from him.
That's when she gets really, really angry. The fact that he leaves her for another wife, she can maybe understand, but taking out half of the books, that's totally unforgivable. That's the point.
Yeah, he took her Madinah.
I was totally aware that I was giving a lot of importance to the books also as object, and something I enjoyed a lot, and it's part of what I said again about this wish of mine to mix abstraction with the reality. I think maybe what gave me that idea of giving a lot of importance, it's my own experience of being in the world of books and enjoying like even the contact with the books. But it's also thanks to a film that I did before, Father of My Children, my second film, that was a film about the last days of a film producer, and in that film I realized the pleasure of using objects as medium for the invisible. That was in a different way, but almost by accident in that film I happened to also film a lot of objects and give them and have this connection between objects and spirituality. And so I think also that's part of how what made me give so much importance to the books and really show them and make them be almost like another character in the film.
Characters, yeah. I mean, when
Well, I think in all of my film there is a lot of that, and I think it's not because the film would be so talkative or intellectual that there would not be these moments, and I think of course they are as important as ever, and there are the moments where things cannot be spoken and there is something else here, but of course it's habited. I mean, it's a habited silence.
silence with meaning, silence that has some kind of a meaning attached to it as well.
Or if I don't have the proper word,
No, that's
help
okay.
me translate my English.
Yeah, we can. The words are always difficult to find, whether it's your language or not. I wanted to ask about, and I mentioned this to you beforehand, about how you begin the film with the writer's tomb at Chateaubriand. Was there did you just want to pick it because of where it was located, or is there some kind of meaning that you attach to Chateaubriand that you wanted to convey in the film?
Yes, well, I think here again I have to go back to my own childhood. Somehow, to me, this place in Saint-Malo, this how do you say, this grave of Chateaubriand, is like the very symbol of melancholy, and that's the way I see it, and I think it's the kind of melancholy that I connect. To me, this melancholy has to do with my father more than with my mother. When I was a kid, I went to this grave. I mean, can you imagine something less funny for a child than visiting Chateaubriand's grave? But maybe now I think I feel even thankful that we did that. You know, with a distance, at least it gave me the beginning of my script. But we also went to Chateaubriand's. He had a castle where he grew up as a kid, and he tells in his book Mémoires d'Outre-Tombe, he tells, which was my dad's favorite book, he tells terrible stories about his childhood in the castle. It's very scary, especially as a child, and my dad would read these pages to me. And we went there, so we did some kind of Chateaubriand tour when I was 7. So I think it's a pretty strong memory of my childhood.